It has taken us weeks, but we have finally put together a team, and the day has finally come. I've missed this team so much. For those of you who are tuning into this, just to give a bit of a, cold opening a little bit, this team worked together a while ago on a different project, and the stars have aligned. The wrestling gods have blessed us to get these three gents back together once again.
That's right.
It's about to be chaotic AF, y'all. It's going to get intense. But welcome and to all of our BC WrestlePod nerds out there. And welcome to the premiere episode of Los Lobos de la Lucha, your CMLL review team. I am your host, El Jefe himself, Mikey, and joined with me for our new show moving forward with CMLL. First and foremost, a returning person from the formerly retired NXT review team, but you can also find him on the TNA reviews, Papa Oso himself. Will is in the house. I am so happy we have not... Listen, it has been 3 weeks since we have seen this man because he's been busy with other things, and me and Andrew are finally happy to get him back for TNA, but I am so happy to have you back. It has been a hot minute.
And yes, everyone, I am white.
If you
do
couldn't have...
not adjust your televisions or your radios. I am white. I am not, however, basic, but I am white.
We love it. I'm so happy Will is here to experience this with us. And then, of course, outside of Will, on my screen, sandwiched in between myself and our third and final host, El Puntador II. You can find him all over the AEW Collision and Rampage review. El Puntador, you're the perfect person to have asked to be a part of this. I mean, come on now. We got to get the Latinos on this show, man.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I don't even have words. I'm just let's go. Let's go.
I am super excited. So before we get into everything tonight, I do need to do a little bit of housekeeping since this is the first episode. I do need to do the thingamajigs and whatever. So, brief backstory. After we decided to kind of retire NXT because there's just a lot of booking decisions that are kind of frustrating me, though there is some great talent over there. And we decided, you know what, let's try something different. And we try to figure out as a BC WrestlePod family, we're like, what doesn't necessarily get covered that would still express, keep the interests of our hosts? And we narrowed it down to GCW and CMLL. And the funny thing is, we're going to end up doing both of these, so stay tuned for more information on GCW. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to be leading this, but Andrew is going to be taking lead position with GCW, so I'm super excited to get more people in the forefront. But we also decided to do CMLL because Lucha Libre is a thing that doesn't necessarily get covered on the internet, which I'm very surprised. And so we figured, you know what? There's me, there's El Buntador, and of course, Will is all over this to be introduced to new things as a newer wrestling fan. So that is how Los Lobos de la Lucha came to be. I am super excited. This is going to be so great. Alrighty, so before we get into what we're reviewing tonight, because we are reviewing the Fantastica Mania Mexico show, because there is another one coming up in July in the United States. So I'm excited to review when that comes up. But before we get into reviewing that show, I thought it would be fun to briefly for each of us to talk about any preset knowledge or ties that we have to Lucha Libre, given the fact that, some of us have more info and more ties and experience with Lucha Libre than others. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to be completely honest. I am aware of, Lucha Libre as it pertains to like Mexico and even in South America, through my grandma, who used to watch all the Lucha Libre when it aired on television when I was a lot younger on the Spanish channels, because CMLL airs for free in Mexico on cable, which is crazy to say that own wrestling federation has its own television programming network. And I would watch it. And then once I got older and I got into all the Western Hemisphere promotions in America, like WWE, my only real experience, and I hate to say this and it's no fault of his own, but the golden standard for Lucha Libre in America has become Rey Mysterio in WWE, which I love Rey Mysterio, don't get me wrong. And I think he's fantastic. But I was like, as far as Ray goes, that's about it because every other luchador doesn't get the same spotlight or the same shine in any of the other companies. And I'm just like, well, then again, we are here in the States and the Lucha Libre is completely different in the States than it is in the heart of Mexico and South America. So when the chance came up to do CMLL, I was like, this is going to be a beautiful thing. And I am super excited. So that's the extent of my knowledge. I am going to go to El Buntador next. So El Buntador, you, my friend, I think have a bit more, experience with it.
I mean, so growing up, when I was smaller, living in Puerto Rico, my father used to watch Lucha Libre. I can't remember. I'm almost positive it was CMLL. Because there would be feeds that would come across to Puerto Rico at the time. This was the late 70s, early 80s. So, but the big thing too with that was they would air the wrestling shows on the radio as well. So that's why a lot of your announcers, if you listen to them, are describing what's happening a lot more. I'm not sure if they still do this, but it's probably because they are also not only doing a video feed, but they're also doing a radio feed out to the parts that don't have TVs. Then in 83, 84, when we moved to Massachusetts, I, much like a lot of Rason, I got separated from Lucha Libre as we moved to Massachusetts. And the promotion to watch in Massachusetts at that time was WWF, because that was in the Northeast, that was the juggernaut and the growing juggernaut across the United States. Throughout my life, I had some, like dipping my elbow back into lucha, but it was very, very Diet Coke Lucha Libre, because in WCW we did have Rey Mysterio, we had Eddie, and they came over to WWE, but I still missed the, Lucha Libre. So finally, when we were talking about this and or I should say, then came Lucha Underground, and I watched Lucha Underground. But again, that was at a time that I couldn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. But now that we figured out where to watch Lucha Libre straight from Mexico, thank you internet, here we are. And I have been watching, I'll admit it, I haven't done the Rampage review because I've been watching Lucha Libre. Sue me.
Hey, honestly, and stay tuned later in the week for this announcement, but honestly, I think it's going to help because combining the AEW shows is definitely going to help.
Yeah.
Make it easier for everyone. And then last but certainly not least, Papo Oso, this will probably be the easiest one. Tell us your experience about Lucha Libre and your ties to it.
Hey, okay. Well, again, I'm a white guy. When I was growing up, I mean, we had our versions of this in American wrestling, which was just the bastardization of it. It wasn't really Lucha Libre. It was just, hey, look at me. I'm going to put one of these masks that I found down in Mexico on, and I'm going to, that's what, for the most part, that was my exposure. And it wasn't until, I say recently, it's been, a while, because I'm older than dirt. And so I started, I came across a couple of actual matches in Mexico. Oh, I do have another Mexico story. I did see a Lucha Libre match in Mexico when I was younger. And I just put two and two together.
That's awesome.
Oh my God. I just literally put two and two together. I was like, oh, holy shit.
He unlocked a memory. We're far enough in, you're fine.
Okay. Oh, totally. Oh my God, that is so funny. That's a story for another day, I guess. But no, that's my exposure to it was not at all culturally appropriate, I'll say. And it's not until recently, until actually I met all of you guys, that I kind of got more into when I got back into wrestling. that I started to get exposed to more of that sort of thing. And like you introduced me to this and New Japan, and so now I'm kind of going international now. So yeah, that's my experience. I have very little. Like, I don't even know wrestlers' names. So if you talk about somebody, I'm like, describe that one, because I don't remember what costume were they wearing, because I'm looking at it that way right now. But I'm learning, because I've got some of my favorites already.
And the thing,
good.
Yeah,
Good. And that's valid. I'm sorry to cut you off, Mikey, but that's valid. That you're learning about the culture and you're enjoying it and you're embracing it, and that, I mean, I think that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I freaking love it.
I love it too. And that's okay, because the funny thing with Lucha Libre, outside of like your big time stars, you are going to see a lot of these luchadores like change outfits. And for some of them will change outfits more. But there's certain mainstays, like when we get to Místico, who will always tell that that's Místico, because he doesn't rarely change his gear for the most part. But yeah, we'll talk about it when we get to the Fantastica Mania portion of the show, because just the pageantry and the elegance and just the ring gear itself was its own category of the whole entire experience. And I'm like, we'll talk about that. So before we get into that review, for the audience at home and for those of us that are still learning when it comes to Lucha Libre, there's going to be a couple of terms and some terminology and things that we're going to be talking about. And if you've only watched Americanized wrestling, you might get confused about some of the terms and some of the rules when it comes to some of these matches. Like, why is the ref counting with 2? Why is everyone not tagging in like in a regular tag team match? So, before we get into the Fantastica Mania review, Adolfo, I'm going to turn it over to him for a little bit. And class is in session because we are going to do Lucha 101. Will, you have a question?
Actually, I have a statement I wanted to add to my other thing. Also, I don't know the language. So, I was listening. Of course, honestly, the funny thing about it is I muted it and I watched it, and I don't need to hear it because I know what's going on. It's like, which is what's so great. Because even when I was, and honestly, Julie, even when I was listening to them, like, talking crap to each other, I was like, I was like, I know what's going on there. But it's a huge language barrier for me because I don't speak Spanish of any kind. I know a few words here and there, and I'll catch a couple here and there, but I don't know. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that it did not at all phase my enjoyment of it at all.
That's all.
The language barrier did not, because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I don't know what they're saying." So no, and all the announcers sounded like '80s commercials.
Yep. Yep. Adds to the enjoyment.
Hilarious.
The one thing,
when you mentioned that, I was like, "That is so funny."
The one thing that is a staple in Mexico and in Mexican culture is like everywhere you go, they will advertise the hell out of everything they got.
Yeah,
There's like, oh my gosh, that's how they get you. Even in Baja California, like where Ensenada is like every time I go down there, I was like, there's like 50 billboards on my way to where we're going.
Yeah. So anyway, back to class.
All right, class is now in session. Professor Buntador, you have the floor.
Ok, gracias. Buenas noches, mi gente. Y bienvenidos a clase. Esto es clase de Lucha Libre. El Lucha Libre! So anyway, I'm going to do it in English for y'all. So this is not anything in-depth. This is just a very kind of like quick overview. So that way, if you do go, and I hope that you do, go and watch a CMLL match or a AAA match or what have you, on YouTube or whatnot, you kind of have a frame of reference of what's going on. So the first thing that we're going to start with, and I'm also going to be in this, I'm going to be CMLL specific, just so everyone's aware. So first off, the very basic is you have your técnicos, which are your faces, and you have your rudos, which are your heels. Now, in Lucha Libre has always been a fight like of good versus evil. That's always been like an underlying concept that they have tried to put out in the matches. So you really will not see your gray area characters like your Stone Cold Steve Austin or your oh my god, the AEW champion right now, Swerve. You won't have your Swerve Stricklands. Those individuals that are they good? Are they not good? No. Technicos are always faces. Rudos are always heels. Right. The stereotypical Lucha Libre trios match that you see, and this is the one that kind of confuses everyone the most. So it's a trios match. If you watch wrestling, if you watch AEW, if you watch WWE, you know what a trios match. You have three on three, right? The difference in Lucha Libre is, number one, each team has a team captain, and that comes into play because the way that you can win the match is either by and the trios Lucha Libre are best 2 out of 3 2 out of 3, right? Pinfall or submission. And the way that you get that pinfall or submission is you either pin or make the captain submit. So you can pin the captain or make the captain of the team submit. Or you have to pin or submit the 2 other team members at the same time. So that's why you'll see the ref go down and he'll start counting with both hands. That's what he's doing. He's counting the two team members. So, and then another thing, if you watch CMLL, CMLL has been around for 90 plus years right now at the time of recording. And unlike in the US, CMLL has 4 arenas in Mexico that they perform at, and each show is aired at each of these arenas. So the first arena you have is the Arena Mexico, the Arena Mexico, which is known as La Catedral de la Lucha Libre. That's the cathedral of Lucha Libre. Then you have the Arena Coliseo, which is also in Mexico City. You have the Arena Coliseo de Accidente, which is in Guadalajara. And then you have Arena Puebla, which is El Templo del Dolor. And that's in Puebla. So, and that's going to be your Lucha 101 for tonight. Adios.
Thank you, El Profesor Butador. Muchas gracias for the lesson. That's the one thing that we're going to be doing a lot here in CMLL. We're going to be doing little tidbits as the 3 of us learn more and get deeper into CMLL and learn about these different things. We will definitely be including these because I think it's important not only for us to be educated, but to also be like, if you are interested and you don't know where to go to start watching, with Lucha Libre and understanding how everything works, we got you. We promise.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. We're 20 minutes in. We've done all the fun stuff. We've gotten, all the first show stuff out the way. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this whole entire thing. Because now we are going to be reviewing the actual Fantastica Mania Mexico show that took place this past Friday. So as of right now, this is the show that we're going to be reviewing in depth. So the Friday shows in CMLL terms, think of them as like your mainstay for CMLL. But what happens on the other shows is also important down the line, which I also appreciate that CMLL does quick little recaps at the beginning of each of their episodes to remind you these are the important things that went down into the past couple of weeks. So we got that when we started the show, the important bits that went on for the last couple of weeks at the show. So we saw 3 quick little matches. And just to give a fair warning, a lot of these matches tonight are going to be best 2 out of 3 falls matches. And that's how it was. And we'll talk about it. So before we get into the first match, this was my first real experience looking at the whole entire setup of Arena Mexico in La Catedral. Like, they have the stairs. The crowd is like in Coliseum seating, which is fantastic. But let's talk about the most important thing. CMLL has its own set of wrestling dancers. This is a whole production, you guys, and I was not ready for it, and I'm here for the vibes. I was here for the vibes.
All I know is, I love the whole thing. I love this is the biggest thing that I love about this is the gangway comes right to ring level.
Yep.
I freaking love that. I just, here in America, it's all you have to come down and climb in, and I get it. But I love that because, man, they were doing some cool shit off of that thing.
Yeah.
And I just love that. Now, there was a moment there that I thought Ishimori was going to fall down those stairs when he was making his entrance. He was all like, look down, look down. I was like,
because those are steep stairs. They look like they're super steep.
I was just like, oh my God. But it was badass. People making their entrances on it was badass. But
yeah,
I love the, as I think Mackie, you were talking about, I love the pageantry of the whole thing. It's just so, and I love the smoke cannons and the confetti and the streamers. And however, I'm thinking pyrotechnics and streamers, that was a little worrisome, but hey, whatever. But I love the whole thing. And I just love how it's all just set up. I just think it's so cool. And then they have, there's the stage there for the dancers to dance on. And it was cool also that it was different dancers also throughout the evening too. That it just the same people over and over again.
And we got ring girls like they do in boxing with it. It's like round one, round two.
I really did like that. At first I was thinking, but I was like, no, I like that when they're just going do round two. Yep. And
fall two.
Yeah, fall two. Yeah.
Caída uno.
Yeah, it was in Spanish. I couldn't read it. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I just inferred what it said.
Don't worry. Me and El Buntador got you, Will. I got you. We will
but I have to say that I like the 2 out of 3 falls.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And I think American wrestling should take that up. I really do like that. One, you get more wrestling, and you can actually sort of like spotlight your performers in that, and and I love that. And I was just the whole structure of this was just like amazing. I mean, I just was blown away by all of it.
Oh man, like the whole presentation from beginning to end and everything was so different, and I immediately loved it. But now let's get into why we're really here. Let's talk about all these matches, because when I tell you, there were times I yelled at my screen going, ooh, ah, oh my God. I was literally like 5 years old again. And I think that's why I'm super excited to review CMLL, because it's like tapping into my inner child. Like, I was like, I like seeing guys do flippy things and do flippy things really well. So
and then also the thing with Fantastica Mania is not only did you have the best of CMLL, but also the best of other promotions there.
Like
so as a wrestling fan, as a wrestling fan, it was just like you're a kid in a candy store.
There was a whole lot of like crossover, because we had CMLL, New Japan, Michael Oku is Progress UK Wrestling, which is fantastic. You also had a couple people you had somebody from AEW show up. You had somebody make an appearance as an ROH, which once that match got confirmed, I melted in my chair, because it's like, oh my God, it's going to be so good.
Viernes, Julio 28, Kyle Fletcher.
I love...
Sorry. We're talking about... I'm sorry. Fantastica Mania. Let's go. Let's do it.
We'll talk about Kyle, but... Fantastica Mania Mexico opens up. This is a best 2 out of 3 fall 6-man tag team match. We had Astro Boy Jr. teaming up with Dr. Coronte the first and Dr. Coronte segundo the second.
Yep.
So funny. Taking on the team of Vegas, Futuro, and Max Star. They're so good. I love them.
Yeah. But, I mean, as an opening match, it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoy that the first few minutes, they're just letting the talent just kind of like show off, and then they start getting into it, it was a lot of fun.
I love all the peacocking.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
I really enjoyed this match for what it was. Obviously, you could tell that the team of Vegas, Futuro, and Max Staro was just like, oh yeah, these are definitely the younger kids. And this definitely was their match to win, which, I mean, no surprise, they did win here. But this was a fun match. It's like, all right, crowd, you're opening this match. Like, y'all got to set the tone for this, entertain the crowd because it's about to get on and pop in for the rest of the night. And boy, howdy did it. So this was the appetizer match, as I wrote in my notes. I was just like, nothing too crazy. It had a little bit of everything, some good wrestling, some Lucha Libre stuff. But what I loved is that this set the tone and it would build everything else that was to come later in the evening. Now that, once I got through it and I reviewed it, I was like, I loved it so much. So nothing more to say unless you gents have anything else to add to this. But I thought this was a fun opener.
I really, really enjoyed it too, and I thought it was a good introduction. I also, I was watching for different reasons, like not different reasons, but I was looking at different things. Stop it, Mikey. That was just sort of icing on the cake. No, I was watching because I'm not 100% familiar with the style. I've seen a couple of, in our past reviews, there was, I don't remember if that was NXT that went to Mexico or...
It was, TNA went down to Mexico.
So I got to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was which was my, I say first introduction. But this one, when I was watching this one, I really got to watch the style. I kind of had to go watch it twice because I really wasn't watching the actual wrestling aspect of it. I was watching the style aspect of it. And it is so, and I mentioned this off before we started, it is so beautiful. It is beautiful wrestling. It is, it's brutal and crazy, but it is so, all of the acrobatics that they do in this are so fluid. I was amazed. And even the hard hits to the floor, they were so pretty. It was just like they just fly through the air, and it's beautiful to watch. So
it is.
Anybody who has not or does not watch this, you should go watch. Just if for nothing else, the aesthetics of it are gorgeous. Just beautiful. Watching these are big guys. These guys are huge, and they are just floating at times. And it's so amazing. So this first match really kind of hooked me in, and then I went back and watched it a second time just so I could watch the actual wrestling aspect of it, and it was just, and the pageantry and all that was just so great. It was just I loved all of it. And I loved the generational gap between the two teams. I say generational gap, but you know what I mean. Was really neat. And you could tell who the younger generations were as opposed to the older generations. And I thought that was so unique and neat. And just there's so much about this whole culture that is so fascinating. It's just so fascinating. And so, this first match, man, got me hooked. And I'll probably, and it's so funny, is I'll probably be one of the ones on here that has the most to say because I'm new to it. So it's like, if I start rambling, y'all can just be like, all right, come on back. I'm like, okay. But no, it was so good. It really was. And it really got me excited for the rest of the evening. It really did. So I'll stop talking.
Well, no, that's what this whole entire review was built upon, and that's why we're doing this, is because this is, even though some of us are more familiar with Lucha Libre, this is still new for a lot of us. So we're going to get to know the talent.
If we do that, then we'll have a 4-hour review.
That is also very true.
So,
alrighty. So let's continue on with the flow of things. So we get a quick segment celebrating the 20th anniversary of Místico. Let me tell you, if you didn't know this before, whereas America has football as their religious sport, Lucha Libre, and especially in Mexico, they treat those wrestlers like gods. Literally, Místico had a whole entire mass dedicated to him in that little video package. And they put all of Mexico, Lucha Libre is the football for them. These are celebrities to the folks down there. And I love that. And, even though it was kind of made fun of a little bit in Nacho Libre, no, literally what you see in Nacho Libre with Jack Black's character idolizing these wrestlers, that's exactly how it truly is with all of it. 20 years of the Mystico character too is nuts, by the way. I was just like, most wrestlers in America don't even make it that long in the career, which is crazy.
Mhm.
So then, after this video segment, I loved it. They just played it. It's like, all right, next match. We ain't going to wait for anything. Let's do this. Will.
I have another thing. Pertaining to the video package is I love how spirituality plays a huge part in this culture.
Yeah.
I think that is so amazing. Because when they were like going to church and they were, I was like, that is amazing. I mean, it's just so. I mean, even down to the idea of, you don't take your mask off and things of like that. That's when, later in the show, there's that one moment where I was all like, oh, I mean, I was like, I had already invested in it. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I love that. And because I'm a very spiritual man, and to see that aspect in the wrestling community, in the wrestling world, that is amazing. And I know the Mexican people are an extremely spiritual people, but it's so neat to see that it's in the wrestling as well, and that carries on, and I just love that. It really kind of gave me chills. It really did.
Well, the funny thing is, too, and this is a story that my grandma told me when I was a lot younger, about Lucha Libre, is that Lucha, especially CMLL, because it's been around for 90 years, which is crazy to think about. Lucha Libre to especially the citizens of Mexico, it dates back all the way back where a lot of these Lucha Libres were considered like heroes to people. And they were like made, like all the characters that we see in CMLL are based off of like legends and, the traditional like Western hero in a bit, which is kind of interesting because Lucha Libre is like the wild, wild west of wrestling. And so you have those tall tales, you have like the pulp Western like mysticism we'll talk about when we get to our main event, because I thought that entrance for Mystico was really cool, but we'll get to it. But you're absolutely right, Will. There's a certain like revelry and mysticism and spirituality,
it's beautiful,
both in and out of the ring, which I feel gets lost when it comes to other styles of wrestling, which is not to say it's bad, but it is a different experience. And as somebody who is also a very spiritual person, I was like, I could draw those connections and parallels.
It's so funny because, and I'm about to draw a parallel here, or not a parallel, but it's really going to be vertical, because when we look at even, bless you, when we look at even, other things, like we'll say, I'm going to talk about theater because I'm a theater person, and we look at like theater training. When we look at theater training in like Europe versus America, it is completely different. When you go and study in Europe, it is like you live it. I mean, it is part of your DNA. In America, we're so got to get it quick, got to get it done, that we don't really learn the craft. We learn the art of faking it. Yep. And so watching this culture, this sort of wrestling culture, and seeing how they live what they do. I mean, it is in their DNA. Yeah. I mean, literally, because it's like generational. I mean, it's like it is, and I love that. I wish American wrestling would get into that. And I know in America it's all about the almighty dollar. We get that. I get that. I'm not an idiot. But you know what? The American wrestlers could learn something from the Lucha Libre culture. I mean, they could. I mean, I am not even kidding. If I owned a wrestling company, I would send all my talent to like a camp and go learn everything there is about luchador wrestling style. I mean, learn everything, not just the wrestling itself, but the culture of it. Learn it.
Well, the funny thing is, and we talked about this before, like me and El Buntador have talked about this before. New Japan does this a lot where they'll send wrestlers overseas to like their, what they call young boys, which means that they learn different styles of wrestling. They'll send them to America, send them to Mexico, send them to the UK, all over the world to learn, and then bring what they learned back into New Japan and all the other Japanese wrestling promotions too, which is really, really cool. We don't see that a lot in America, but I would love to see that. So, all right, Now,
Now you
I'm
can.
going to get a chuckle out of this because we're going to go to our next match, and these tag team names are fantastic. So, and then another 2 out of 3 Falls tag team match representing New Japan, we have the Wolf Zaddies, which is Che Cabrera and Bad Dude Tito.
Bad Dude
Bad
Tito.
Oh my
The way they
God.
announce these names too, man, I love them so much.
So good. So
Ta-
good.
Taking on the team of Magnus and Rugido. I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be great. So
I just really quick, I just want to point out if you noticed throughout the night, the teams not from Mexico were playing the part of the rudos, and the teams that were from Mexico, even if they are normally rudos, were técnicos.
Well, that makes sense.
Because that happened in
matches.
this match, and later on with Rocky Romero that that was more. But let's talk about this match.
All right. So what are the terms again? What's a heel?
So the heel is a rudo.
A rudo?
like rude, yeah.
Yeah, like rude.
Rudo. Okay.
Like rudo.
Okay.
Rudo.
But it sounds better when you go rudo.
Roll those R's.
Roll those R's.
And then the baby faces, the good guys, are the técnicos.
Technicos.
Técnicos.
Oh, okay.
Technicos, if you
Right. So are the Wolf Zaddies are they rudos normally?
Yeah, they played the. Okay, so it gets interesting because when they're in New Japan, I feel like in American terms, they're like Che Cabrera and Bad Dude Tito are part of TMDK, which is Zack Sabre Jr.'s group in New Japan, and they're kind of like anti-heroes for the most part. They're not really heels, but they're not like baby faces. They kind of just do what they want. But definitely in this match, they leaned more towards the rudo side and were the bad guys in this match because Magnus and Rugido were the técnicos of this match. So I'm just going to put this out there because I'm not going to keep bringing it up every time. But I just want the audience to know you have the three of us. One of us is a B, one of us is a G, and one of us is an ally, but all of us have some tendencies. So we're going to talk about the wrestling, but also this is going to get very queer really quickly as well. Because there's
So if that makes you mad, be mad.
Yeah, because
if you're gonna be mad,
Tito, he's a hot motherfucker.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Holy God. I was just like, hello. But anyway, the reason I was asking that is because, and again, because I don't know the culture and I don't know the language, and things of that, I couldn't tell who was good guy, bad guy. So I didn't have any preconceived notions. So I was just watching people wrestle, and I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, it's the thing to watch to figure out who the technical and who the rudos are, is the fan reaction. So if the fans are cheering at someone, then they're technicos. If the fans are booing, then that's the rudo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Because I was wondering that also, and I don't know, it's not this match. I think it's the one after the women's match. Because they were booing certain people, and I didn't know if they were booing them because they were the guests, and I don't know. It was really weird to me. I was like, wait, why are they booing those guys? I was just like, they're really good.
Yeah. So one thing you'll learn about like Lucha Libre fans is that like they are very protective and very on the side of like their heroes. So in this case, because we had visitors pretty much in every single match outside of our opener, like they're going to even boo the bad guys because it's like these are the hometown kids that we want to root for.
Right,
it's like
right.
We might not like you on normal cases, but it's like this is our house.
So that it makes sense to me now. Now that I know that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why they were doing that. I get it
now. The match itself, I'm just like, I keep forgetting how powerful Che and Bad Dude Tito are when it comes to their style of wrestling because they're very power based, and this definitely was on display. But also, they got hops too because they were hopping through the ropes a bunch of.
See, this goes back to my previous statement about even these big guys. They're just like no effort whatsoever. Like they jumped through that top and middle rope and just just slipped right through, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
Also, shout out to the drone camera shots of getting all these angles.
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up. That drone camera was so cool.
I had to
Loved it.
rewind it a couple of times. I was like, "What the hell was that?" I was like, "Rewind." I was like,
I think at one point,
drone!
like Hiromu Takahashi almost accidentally hit the.
Mhm.
Yes, he did. Yes,
Which
he
was
did.
funny. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna break this because that's a lot of money to
That was
replace."
so funny. That's a great idea, though. Man,
So,
American
I mean,
wrestling needs
it's
to do
so
that.
good. Why is it that the Spanish speaking countries, like, they usually use the drone? Like, not to bring up another promotion, but when we were in Puerto Rico for Backlash last year for WWE, like the drone shot of them going from outside the arena to in the arena with all of Puerto
It's
Rico in
because-
there.
It's
So
because
good.
Americans are boring. I'm not gonna lie, Americans are boring.
Well, that, and I think that there's a degree of going back to the almighty dollar, insurance.
Yeah.
You know, because if
I know,
that drone like
Too happy. here.
falls and like hits someone, then you
Gonna
have this
sue
whole
you.
insurance.
Lawsuit.
I hate
Yeah,
it.
so
It's fantastic. But, the home turf heroes picked up the win here. Magnus and Rugido beat Che Cabrera and Bad Dude Tito in this match. This was a lot of fun too because it was Power versus
I was so
Ariel.
sad. I was so sad that my Tito didn't win.
Honestly,
I
Will's
was
watching
there-
for the
I was
wrestling,
there to
but
offer hugs, but I don't think he realized it.
I'm not going to go into detail with this, but let's just say the chat between me and Will was also about wrestling. So we'll just leave.
We mentioned wrestling a couple of times.
Look, there are certain wrestlers I was like, yeah, he can have my babies. So, all right.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you gentlemen, but we get into the next match. This was my match of the whole entire night.
Man,
Or at least this was in my top two, but
holy jeez.
and the fun part is this is for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. We have the challenger La Catalina taking on the champion Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie Vaquer, if you are like, hey, why does that name sound familiar? It's because at the time of this recording, in a couple of days, she is going into a title versus title match at AEW and New Japan's Forbidden Door pay-per-view against the AEW TBS champion Mercedes Moné, which we'll talk about her in a little bit. Gentlemen, literally this whole entire match was me screaming, the girls are fighting!
they hit hard.
Oh my gosh.
And I know one thing that we always bring forward is the lack of women's matches in promotions and their cards. But this was the only women's match for the night. However, it went on. Like, they let them wrestle.
I think, according to Cage,
Go ahead.
According to Cage Match, which breaks down the card and how long the matches are, I think according to Cage Match, this was the longest match of the night, and it clocked in almost 20 minutes.
Yeah, and they hit hard. Like, some of those hits that both Stephanie Vaquer and what was her name?
La Catalina.
La Catalina. I just remember. I think she was from Colombia. I think.
She has a mixed heritage because her ring gear was Mexican and Colombiana.
And that ring gear was beautiful. That ring gear was beautiful.
Oh my god, her entrance alone too.
Yeah.
She came in the full pageantry of everything. I was just like, oh, so good.
Yeah, I got chills. But yeah, they went after each other in a way that I don't know if, I'm not even going to draw that comparison, but they went after each other and it was a beautiful match, and it was I think it was also, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was a straight pin match. But
it was a one-on-one match. Yep.
Yeah, there was, and the story that they told was fantastic because, there were times where you thought that Stephanie was going to drop it. You're like, is she going to drop this this belt before she has a chance?
Yeah,
to go
I was
against,
like, is La
Mercedes
Catalina
Moné?
going to Forbidden Door instead?
Right? So it was just great, and I mean, I'm going to mention it later, but Stephanie Vaquer, this entire weekend, a lot of work. She put a lot of work in.
And she's going to continue to do so because not only is she going to be on the pay-per-view, but she's also going to be on the AEW Collision episode in a match too. Also, Will, you had pointed out something very, very interesting too that you were impressed with too, because when Stephanie made her entrance, Will, you commented to me of how many titles she's holding. Homegirl is tag team women's champion and New Japan women's champ too.
Damn,
Like
she had
Homegirl
a
is
lot of
busy.
jewelry on her. I was like, dang, girl. All
But
right.
she is that good. I love the simple aesthetic of her wearing the horns when she wrestles.
Oh, I
Like,
love the horns.
Yeah.
so good. Again, this match had some of my favorite parts. La Catalina like doing the kicks into the corner and dropping Stephanie. Stephanie like using her thighs and like crushing La Catalina's face into the mat over and over again.
I mean, that's gotta give you some sort of whiplash. Holy shnikes.
And then there was at one point too, towards the end of this match, where Stephanie's like, come back here, and grabs her by the braids too, and drags her to the middle of the ring. They're not afraid of me pulling hair. Oh my god, this match was great. Stephanie Vaquer retains the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Like, I'm putting this on my list as like, look, if you want an introduction to CMLL outside of the men's matches, like the women from this match alone, was like, I'm excited to see what other stuff we're gonna get from this women's division here. Like, this match was so good. And I was like, this is what I want all women's wrestling to be. Just let the girls fight. And I'm gonna bring it up here.
Let the girls.
When me and Will were talking about this too, it was Will mentioned it, and I was like, I didn't think about this, but Will makes a good point in our conversation. It seems that in CMLL, the norms that we're used to when it comes to men's and women's wrestling have kind of switched a little bit. Because what we saw in Fantastic Mania, the men were more elegant, I guess is the best way to put it, and more pageantry in their wrestling matches. And the girls were just waiting to kick the person's ass. Like, they're like, which is so refreshing to see. I was like, yeah, women's wrestling can kick ass. And lo and behold, we had this match. But the beatdowns weren't over. Oh, no, because as soon as this match was over and Stephanie's hand was raised, Mercedes Monet's music hits and she makes her way down. And this exchange was so great. Mercedes was being disrespectful because she walked into Stephanie's house, which is the arena, La Catedral. She says that she's going to be leaving Forbidden Door with the TBS Championship and the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. And then Stephanie cut the best promo I have heard all week. And she basically told her, you're in my house, bitch. Like, don't be disrespectful.
In my house, we speak Spanish.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, the amounts of time I have wanted to say that. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I had a moment when she said that. I was just like,
me and El Buntador melted when she said that. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I feel seen.
Jeez.
And then after this little exchange, man, they just went to blows.
Yeah, they threw down. They threw down. I just want to say, and I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I am afraid, and we talked about this, Mikey, on Friday, but I am afraid that in Forbidden Door that they will tone down Stephanie Vaquer.
Yeah.
And if they do that, that's going to be so, people, please watch one of these matches from CMLL with Stephanie Vaquer so you can see, like, what she can truly do.
Okay, so I wasn't part of that conversation. Why do you think that they'll do that, or why are you afraid that they might do that? I mean, are there indications that I missed?
Well, so number one, women's matches in the U.S. are usually not as violent as they are in CMLL because they were going hard.
Oh
yeah, you know what I mean. And you usually don't see that in the American wrestling promotions. Okay. That, and also, with Mercedes Moné coming back from the injury that she sustained, and I haven't really seen her in a lot of matches, and even in the matches that she's been in, it feels like they've kind of catered to her injury. And I'm not saying anything about her abilities because she's a great wrestler. But I feel like, they don't. You just got this brand new champion and this brand new superstar. They don't want her broken.
Okay,
which is unfortunate. Yeah.
So we think it's because, or not we think, I'm just trying to piece it together. So you think it might be because Americans can't handle it too much, or like people in the States can't handle the level?
I
Which
personally,
is totally valid. I'm not disavowing that. I'm just saying, is that what we're trying to say is basically that they have to tone it down
yes,
for American audiences.
It's a two-edged sword. They got to tone it down for American audiences. And then they don't. AEW doesn't want their new superstar broken. So
I think on top of that, AEW does allow their women to hit a little bit harder, but it's only very specific ones. So like in the AEW roster, wrestlers like Toni Storm and Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida, who all come from, wrestling promotions or companies that they were the monster, especially with Toni and Hikaru coming from Japan. So the Japan strong style women's wrestling's in their DNA. I'm going to send a video to Willow of Tony's hip attack because that thing is vicious. I
hope they don't do that because,
yeah,
they were hitting hard and like it was brutal, but I don't think American audiences would shy away from that. I mean, I wouldn't. I would be very much like, beat her ass. I mean, it's like, here, I'll give you a chair. Do it. I don't know. I mean, and that'll be very unfortunate if they do it for that reason. Now, if they do it for the other reason, I'm okay. Because, you don't want to hurt. You don't want someone to get hurt that bad where they can't do it anymore. But I would be very disappointed if they did it because of that. I really would. Because I can't even imagine holding her back.
No.
I don't even know what that would look like.
I don't think so either. Well, thankfully, her match against Lady Frost is upcoming Saturday on Collision. I'm not worried because we know Lady Frost has been trained in Lucha Libre because she spent time in Mexico and all that. So she's going to be good. The sad part is all of us on the AEW crew, me, El Buntador, and then JBL and Professor, we are pulling for Stephanie to win, but I don't think she's going to, which is the sad part. But that's for a whole different conversation. But as far as what we saw between her and La Catalina and the brawl, I was like, yes, I am so invested in this. This was a phenomenal match. And then it just continued because then we get a 2 out of 3 falls tag team match. I had to watch this twice because I was like, ooh, ring gear. I was like, well, hello, who do we have here? But we have Rocky Romero and the Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori taking on Templario and Máscara Dorada. Máscara and Templario's gear, I was like, yo, this is on point. Will was just like, well, hello there.
Rocky Romero and Templario were my favorites aesthetically in this match.
Yeah, Templario, he's
I was like, well, hello there.
I like a brown tattooed man.
He was a knight in shining armor. To be true.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
I mean, minus aesthetics wise, like, I think Máscara and Templario were probably my favorite in terms of how they wrestled. I was like, oh my god, they do not stop.
Yeah, and also speaking to the people, the superstars that came in that weren't from Mexico, being the Rudos in this show. How about Rocky Romero really embracing that Rudo, that bad, trying to work get that heat with the crowd.
Well, the funny thing with Rocky is he does have ties to CMLL because he was there for quite some time before going to New Japan and then coming to AEW.
Yeah,
when he came on with that eye patch on, I was like, "Hello."
He turned into Austin Powers. It was like, "Hello, shag me, baby."
I was like, okay,
yeah, but it's funny. It's quite a different. At least I feel it's a different side of Rocky Romero that we see over from AEW, where he's with the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy.
He's more of a hero.
He's more of a baby face in AEW. But
total Rudo here.
Yeah, and Again, my own personal, I feel like they really, when seeing Rocky Romero in CMLL was like him being let off the leash, because his in-ring charisma was, fantastic. Like the way that he reacted, and would interact with the crowd and would interact with the other wrestlers. I thought it was, I like CMLL Rocky Romero more than American Rocky Romero.
This was an awesome match.
It was.
Like, this was great. Ultimately, I was not surprised, but because, cheating was involved, which makes a lot of sense. There was Dick Kick City that happened in the finish of this, is what we call those. But Rocky Romero and Taiji Ishimori pick up the victory here. But this was also a really great match. I was like, I want to see more of Templario and Máscara Dorada. Like, oh my goodness. Their style of wrestling is so good. And, if we can get more of Rocky and Taiji in CMLL for the next couple of shows, like, I'm here for it. Which is funny, because Rocky's going to be making an appearance in the Fantastic Mania USA show in July, too. And we'll talk about that when we get closer to it, but he's teaming with an old rival because they announced the matches that are happening at Fantastica Mania USA, and those matches are nuts because they involve lots of other promotions too. But this was a fun match. Then I melted in my chair even more because I know how good this match is going to be this upcoming Friday, but and I was like, hey, I think I recognize that airport in the background because I was like, I was stuck there for a couple of hours. Kyle Fletcher, the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, pops up in this pre-taped on his iPhone promo, answering the call from Atlantis Jr., who challenged Kyle. Well, he challenged whoever won between Kyle and Lee Johnson in the title match to face him in Arena Mexico. So Kyle Fletcher in this promo, appreciate that they added subtitles in Spanish for the audience, but Kyle Fletcher accepts the challenge, and it will be Kyle Fletcher versus Atlantis Jr. on CMLL television this Friday for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. And I melted in my chair because that match is going to be so good.
I'm so excited. I'm very excited for that match. I mean, as it is, I'm a stan for Kyle Fletcher.
Such a nice dude.
I know
meeting him at the convention was great.
Yeah, he drank the monster that I had bought for Sky, which turns out to be his favorite flavor of Monster. So that made me feel good. Anyway, but yeah, to see him, I'm just super excited about seeing him down there in La Catedral against Atlantis Jr. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Kyle Fletcher is having one hell of a 2024, like for reals. This man gets to fight everywhere and is so good. So we get this, and then oh my god, we get probably the most technically beautiful match, in my opinion, because we have high flying action. But anytime you have Zack Sabre Jr. in your match, you're gonna see some crazy technical ish.
Yeah,
but we have in our semi-main event in a best 2 out of 3 falls match, the Progress UK champion Michael Oku. I loved how they pronounced his last name the whole entire match too. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And Zack Sabre Jr. taking on the team of Averno and Volador Jr. Like, I was just like, ooh, this should be good because I'm familiar with these guys, all of these guys' work. And I love that even though Michael and Zach were on the same team, they got beef with each other too. They're like, it was crazy.
Yeah, that was good. That added a cool different angle to the match. And to be fair, Volador Jr. and his partner had some issues towards the end too. So it was very interesting. It was very, very interesting.
I want to say that Zach probably had my favorite move of this match. I never get tired of him doing it when he gets somebody into the leg lock, folds his arms like I Dream of Genie, and then goes backwards head first to like do that submission hold. I'm just like, sir, you are that flexible. I was just like, I need to know your secrets. Like,
or when he has the person and they're squatting like this, and it's like a submission like guillotine type situation because he's got his legs here and his the hands here, but he's like off the ground, and the person supported that. Yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. I know a lot of the Bi-Conics guys really enjoy Zack Sabre Jr. And the first time I saw him was like last year, I think, at Forbidden Door. And that was like the only Zack Sabre Jr. match that I had seen. And in this week, I have seen Zack Sabre Jr. like at least 5 times on my screen wrestling.
And we're going to continue to see him. This man
and
works.
Continue to see him. And and also, you know, his style works really well with the luchadors, which was nice to see, you know?
Yeah, so Michael and Zack Sabre Jr. pick up the win here, but this was not the end because Averno had issues with Volador Jr. And if I read the situation correctly as I was leading this, because the crowd started cheering for Averno in this whole entire thing, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot Volador is technically a Rudo, so it was like,
yep.
So it seems they gonna be beefing next, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of here for it. But this was a fun semi-main event. They progressed storytelling. One thing I will say with CMLL is that they drag these stories out forever. You have feuds that go on for years, but I love to see it. But this was a fun technical match. Our Brits take the win. And Zach is busy because when we get to it, El Buntador is going to share like the crazy match that happened on the Tuesday show.
Yep.
Like, that match was nuts. But before we get into our main event, we do get a quick segment where they celebrate in the Catedral the 20-year anniversary of Místico. That entrance where you have all the body doubles be popping up in different parts of the arena was fantastic.
Yeah.
This was a beautiful ceremony. Like, these are literal heroes to these people. And just the gratitude that Místico has for being able to do this, or as long as he has with this character, like, it was amazing. Like, they had everybody come out. Literally, they had the promoters. They had, like, the people in charge. They had the dancers. Everybody was on that ramp to celebrate the 20 years. And then once all of those festivities were out, we get into our main event. Because as soon as everybody clears out, who should make his way to the ring? And this, to me, will enjoy what I'm about to say. I need all the American wrestlers to take a look. That is how you do a coat. Like, Hiromu Takahashi comes down in his coat, and I'm just like, I want that, and it is also in his shorts too. Like, yes. Oh my, I love it. It's so fuzzy. I was just like,
I love that.
Hiromu is one of my favorites when it comes to ring gear. Like, every time he wrestles at Wrestle Kingdom in New Japan, which is their biggest pay-per-view, he always comes out with the eyeballs and everything. Oh, it's so good. This match was also really good too. Yeah, I'm just like,
yep.
Oh my god. Like, this was a true back and forth match, and I'm just like, Hiromu and Místico brought the house down for me. Holy crap. Like, so good.
Yeah. It spoke volumes, again, my personal opinion, but it spoke volumes how they just have this beautiful ceremony celebrating Místico and his 20 years. And now in this match, I'm sitting here watching, and I'm like, are they going to have Místico lose his end of 20-year anniversary show? What? Really? Because, it was a good match. It had you on the edge of your seat. Tamahashi, that's his name?
Takahashi, yeah.
Takahashi. Yeah, Takahashi, man. I the more I see of him on my TV screen, I'm ecstatic, you know. And it really, you know, the match was a real, like, what I like to call a Rocky style match, where the hero is just getting beat down and beat down and beat down, and then like he comes back and starts, you know, fighting, and then like the scrappy underdog, and then he pulls out the win. It's like, you know, inspirational, and like, I had to keep myself from waking everyone up in the house watching this match.
Oh my god!
So yeah, I was gonna say that too. Well, something close to that. What I wanted to talk about was the fact that they celebrated this man, and then we immediately go into this this match, and when they announced who it was fighting, I was like, oh my god. And then when he entered, I was like, oh my god, I love you so much. And then I was kind of like, oh, now we got to pick which. Oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, oh, damn it.
I feel it's always the best problem to have as a wrestling
is.
fan when you know you have two individuals who are that good and are like
Yeah.
favorites of yours going at it.
Absolutely.
It's just like, I love to have that problem.
And so the thing that I loved about this match is that it was this sort of 20th anniversary match, like 20 years, and this is my match. They did not make it to where it was we automatically knew that Mystico was going to win. Like it, like, oh, it's his 20-year match. We want to give this to him. I mean, he fought to not lose his match.
Yeah, he did.
And I was like, I love that. I love everything about it, because in like American style wrestling, you would know that that person's not going to lose that match. You know it. But in this one, I was like, holy crap, Mystico's getting his ass kicked. I was just like, oh my god, he may not win this match. That would suck.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. Then he came back at the end, and I was like, oh, hallelujah. But because I was very much like, God, they cannot let this man lose his 20th anniversary match.
Yeah,
just cannot.
Yeah.
But
it was
I thought he was going
good storytelling.
Yeah, it was. God, it was so good. It was just so good.
Yep. By the end of this match,
anytime I see Takahashi on my screen, I'm like, yay.
The pageantry of his coat and pants, shorts alone always gives me. But Mystico,
I want his coat,
win, man.
real quick. I want his coat, and I want Mercedes' coat. That coat is fabulous.
Yeah.
Holy crap. They know how to do coats down there, man.
Seriously.
Hey,
wrestlers, if you're looking for coats, you should hire Will.
I remember when I told you, I was like, I would literally tell Ilya Dragunov that I would make him a coat. I send it to him. Because what he was wearing is like, no, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
But these were on point. And I like the shorts. I like the shorts too. Like, I want
Can we also talk about Mystico's gear too? Like the whole thing. And the whole, like, his whole, like, telenovela entrance theme song too. I'm just like,
oh, I know. And the arena was singing it, and it was
so good.
But the best part was that it was such a
wrestling
theme because it was like slow, and it was like,
it's literally
emotional.
like,
it's a ballad. It's a ballad.
I was like, I see this in a telenovela series that airs on Telemundo. Like,
everyone's singing it, and everyone's it was.
That's good. Funny because I have no history with Mystico. I have no history with this wrestler at all. But just in the little video promos and just a little bit that I got to know him, I was moved. It's like when they all started singing, I was like, I mean, that it speaks volumes. And not to get all sentimental and all, but I mean, that was it was like, wow. I mean, I was moved by it, and I know nothing about him. But because everybody else was they know who he is, and they idolize him, and it's just so like
all the little kids with the Mystico masks, putting them on, and all that.
And then all the other wrestlers there, and they were just like celebrating him. I'm like, that is amazing.
Let's talk about what happened afterwards too, because Mystico wins against Hiromu Takahashi.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful.
They both took turns like having the crowd celebrate both performers, which was awesome to see.
Yeah.
But then you had all the participants who participated in the matches this evening all come out and do a group photo. Like,
loved that.
They break the kayfabe, so to speak, which I love because
break the kayfabe.
The biggest difference that I saw in this moment, I was just like, because in American wrestling, some wrestlers, some legends that we're all aware of, a certain Mortician-esque character, like, would never break character in and out of the ring, but because of the sense of community and camaraderie and just the culture that Lucha Libre has on Mexico is so different and so poignant. It's like they're not afraid to drop the facade because I was just like, I now want to figure out a way for us to go to a CMLL show in Mexico. Everybody better
That'd be awesome.
get
Yeah.
their passports because I just want to
Hey,
be
it's
able
not
to
that far
experience
from
the
me.
atmosphere. Literally, like it is just the atmosphere just through my screen was just so palpable.
Oh my God, it
I
was.
loved it.
It was.
And I was just, by the end of this, I was like, I'm so glad we are deciding to do CMLL for our channel because it's so different.
Yeah, and like at the end of the match, when those two men who just fought their hearts out were celebrating each other, to me, it's like I am a big fan of the gentleman wrestler. I'm a huge fan of the gentleman wrestler who's like, I will get in this ring and I'll beat your ass, but then I'm going to thank you at the end because you're an amazing opponent. It was such a beautiful moment when he was raising Takahashi's arm like he won the match, and I was just like, that right there, everybody. I need everyone to look at that and instill that into your hearts because that's what it should be about. It should be about sportsmanship. It should be about, yes, we may be enemies while we're fighting, but at the end, we're both human beings and we should be celebrating each other. And that's what was happening there. And I loved that. And I mean, it was truly a beautiful moment. And I mean, we've had some of those moments in American wrestling. We have wrestlers who do that, like Ilya. He does that, but this, man, this had a whole new feel to it. This didn't feel. The thing about this is it didn't feel staged.
Yes.
Like it felt legitimate, like sincere. Like Mystico was like, "You are an amazing human being. Let me celebrate you." And I was just like, God bless America. We should be more like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I loved it. So the last point of order, because this whole show was fantastic. Before we get into our outro and all that stuff, we're going to get some quick thoughts from El Buntador, who happened to also watch the Tuesday show, which if anybody...
The Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday show.
There's a lot of CMLL that has to offer. We're going to figure out which ones we got to cover. But I want to specifically talk about the one that made its way into our group chat. And like every 10 minutes or so, they changed the rules. El Putador, what was going on in this match? Like, what happened?
So this was on Tuesday night at the Arena Mexico. We had a 14-man Internacional Torneo Cibernetico elimination match. Y'all need to watch it to believe it. It was like a dream match candy store, I'll tell you what. So in the beginning, they have the 14 wrestlers come out, okay? And Caia Uno, or the first fall, if you will, the first round is quite literally a Royal Rumble, where whoever gets tossed out of the match is eliminated from the tournament. However, unlike in the US Royal Rumble, they don't leave ringside. They stay at ringside. And this is important a little bit later. So then round 2 is you have a whole bunch of individual matches. I don't know how they figured out who went in and who versed who, right? I need to rewatch at least 2 more times to figure that out. But you had a whole bunch of micro individual matches, and whoever got pinned in these matches, they or pinned or submitted in these matches, they were then eliminated, right? And the reason why the people that in the first round got tossed out stayed was important was when people would roll out of the ring, if people had beef with them, you would see just a mass group of people just get jumped. Like Mystico had like 5 dudes like jump on top of him and start beating him up and throwing him back in the ring. It was great. So then this finally, you whittle it down to the round 3, and in round 3, this is the final. And in this final, you had Mystico versus Zack Sabre Jr. And again, it was a beautiful match. Mystico did win, but there were a lot of moments that, are you gonna win? Because they let Zack Sabre Jr. showcase his technical prowess. He had a bunch of submission holds on Mystico that you didn't think he was going to get out of, and it was just it was a lot of reversals to what Mystico was going to do, and it was a great match. It was a great match. So in the end, though, Mystico does win the Torneo Cibernetico Cup. It was a little cup that he won, and yeah, if you have some moments to spare and you look this up on YouTube, I implore you to watch this match. This was such a great match, such a fun match, and just like a breath of fresh air, that's all I gotta say.
Throws the report. Love it. Well, thank you, El Puntador, for filling us in. I'm definitely going to be checking it out, which reminds me, we're going to have a conversation when we're off air to figure out there are 4 shows. That is a lot of CMLL wrestling. So which ones are we going to cover for the review? But honestly, that just makes me happy. I was just like, they have so many different things going on with these shows. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Boys, that's it. We made it through our first review.
We did.
It's crazy.
Well, I have questions.
All right. And now we're going to bypass the empanada rating for this first episode because this is just getting our feet wet and, people who are tuning in.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Make it easy.
10 out of 10.
Now we get
Mikey, after Fantastic Mania, I could not stop watching CMLL for the rest of the week because it was so good and everything else was so good. I was like, I cannot. I binged CMLL. 10 out of 10. Go watch it.
I mean, it did make me want to watch more of it. I mean, it really did.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, easy 10 out of 10 for this episode is fantastic. But now let's move to the Q&A portion. Will, as our resident, I wanted to say white man, but that sounds bad. But
that's okay. I am Caucasian.
Q&A with El Caucasian.
I am muy blanco. So I don't know if we touched on it because I got overly excited doing this review. Did we talk about the differences between like American style tag team and luchador style tag teaming? The fact like there's no actual tagging, and did we talk about that?
We touched on it super briefly when I explained the trios, but we really didn't go into.
Well, I think we should because
depth on it.
No, but you're absolutely correct.
Because it was new to me and I kind of like it. I was like,
yeah.
I mean, I kind of like them just coming and going, and it's a team. The team's doing their thing. Why tag somebody in? Blah 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 blah. So I didn't know if we wanted to just talk about that a little bit, just because there are a lot of similarities, but there are also a lot of dissimilarities. Like there's a lot of things that American style doesn't do or doesn't allow, that this style does. I mean. Well,
I guess we can quickly go over because from my observations in El Butador, you can correct me. But it seems that tag team wrestling in CMLL kind of is similar to tornado tag rules in a way.
Yes.
Like you just pop in and out wherever you can, whereas as in the States, what we see in WWE and unless they're tornado tag rules, it's one person in the ring and then their partner has to
wait your turn.
They have to wait their turn and they have to hold on to the little rope because if you don't hold on to the rope in the States and you go in for the tag, they will not let you in and it's one person at a time. Whereas in CMLL, it seems that they're operating with tornado tag where you don't need to, there's no rope to hold, there's no little white rope to hold onto it. Everybody just pops in and out. It does not matter. It's crazy.
So here's another question on that. Is it called something different? Is it called is it not tag teaming or
no? It's still called tag team. It is still called
That's
tag team.
interesting because they don't tag each other. That's why I'm like, is there not a cooler name for it? Because it really needs a cooler name, but it needs like sexy, like Spanish name. I was like, but
I think I have to look at the Spanish poster again, and I think that it has like a Spanish name.
Okay.
But it is tag team. They do refer to it as tag team.
Okay.
And but you are right about one thing, Will, in that not only do they come in and come out as they do, but because they are a team, they try to do the match, who will match against who better,
right?
So like if one guy is in and he sees another guy come in, he'll pop out and let like his power buddy pop in, so that you have a better match. Or like if you have two high flyer, or you have a strong guy and like a high flyer in there, the high flyer will pop out so that the two strong guys can go at it, or whatnot.
Because one of the things, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Because one of the things I loved was like when one of them would pin one of them and the counting started going, and that opposing partner would come to knock them off, and then their member would grab them and slam them and pin them, and then they would like and I was like,
and then
that is awesome.
There's
no like, oh well, you were tagged in so you have to make the pin. It's like pin when you can pin, and I love that. Because because American Tag Team, even though it's cool, it's so it is. It's very much like sit off to the side, hold onto that little rope, and wait your turn, and which could come, last 5 minutes of the match. You could literally be standing there and doing nothing, and I love the fact that in this style of tag teaming, is that both partners or three people, however many there are, all have like active roles.
Yes.
There is some waiting around on the edges, but it's nothing like, I mean, you never feel like they're standing there for too long.
Yep. Oh, and don't forget the microestrellas.
Oh, that's true. Our little buddies.
They play a part in that too.
They do. And I love that too. I was just like, I don't know. I just, the tag team, that was probably one of the biggest things that fascinated me, was the fact how different that was. And I think American wrestling should move to that, because that is way better. It's more interesting.
Yes.
And I know.
Because you don't, and you don't have that like eventual part in the tag team match where that you have that sustained it's just like who's coming in now, coming in now, they just like,
I just love I love that fluidity of it. I love the fact that there's no waiting. It's just like you wrestle and you protect your teammate, you protect your partners, by any means necessary. And if that means all four people are in the ring fighting each other, then yay. And I was just like, God, what? That's so great. That is so great. And I also love the 2 out of 3.
Yep.
I think American wrestling should just become Lucha Libre. It really should. Like go by Lucha rules, because
I mean, we would see luchadors in our Western promotions win that more often. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, and I mean, even the structure of it, I think it's a better structure. Like, I mean, because, and I know, again, it's all about the almighty dollar in America. And I get that. So you do tag teams, so you spotlight your talent. But I think in the lucha style, everyone is spotlighted. Like all your talent is spotlighted. It's
totally.
It's not we're only gonna focus on Rocky, for like 15 minutes. Because he's fighting, and then Taji runs in there, and it's like, holy crap! And the first time it happened, I was like, ooh, there's no tagging. There's like, they don't have to tag; they can just go on in with their time they want to. And I'm like, how freaking amazing is that? I think it keeps the excitement of the match going, and it spotlights all your talent at the same time. Because never once did I just focus on one of them or two of them. There was always like 3, 4. They were everywhere, and it was so. And I find that so much more exciting as a spectator. I find that so much more exciting. because you never know what's going to happen. And I love the unpredictability of it. See, American tag teaming, I think, is so predictable, and so we kind of go, when we go into them, we're like, okay, so we know that this particular wrestler is going to probably fight for the first third of the match. They'll tag in their partner who will, fight for a little bit and then get tagged out again. And then the person will come in and do another. We kind of know that. But in this, I had no idea who was going to be coming and going. And I loved that. It was so good. I think that American wrestling could learn something. I mean, truly. Send American wrestlers to Luchador camp.
Yeah, right. It would be nice. It would be nice to, especially like AEW. I feel uses the trio setup a lot more. If they adopted that format, like the 3 pinfall, the one you have the captain. You can either win by either pinning, submitting captain, or pinning and submitting the other two. I think that it would make it more exciting. And you're right.
And the 2 out of 3, you get more wrestling. I mean, you truly do. That's why I think I like when over in the other wrestling companies, it's like the Heritage Cup. That's why I like the Heritage Cup, because it was like all you had so many rounds and you had to do that, and it made it more interesting. It's like, we get to watch more wrestling. It's not like a 10-minute match and it's done. It's like. And this is so I like these. I like this style so much better. Now, my question is it like this across the board? I mean, are these the rules across the board, or do different companies do different things?
Yes. From the research that I have done, that style, that ruling of in Lucha Libre, that is the prototype, if you will. Some wrestling promotions in Mexico, they have swung like a little more like US style, but I'm thinking, I can't remember the name, but I'm thinking of the one wrestling promotion, which is like the Extreme Wrestling promotion.
Not GCW, is it?
No, not GCW. No. But I think AAA. I think that that 3 fall style is universal.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I was just curious. I'm sorry. I'm throwing you on the spot.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I can say with 100% confidence, because I had watched a special on Lucha Libre, and you followed the year of this one Lucha Libre, of this one luchador, and he when he went to like the smaller matches, like out in the middle of nowhere, the match setup was still like that, where it was best 2 out of 3, and with the the captains and this, that, and the other. So
okay, like for future reference, y'all can just say, "We'll shut the fuck up."
No, we're not going. Look, we're not going to, because this is important. Because what I want the CMLL review team to end up becoming is not only do we review the shows, but like literally we're all in different ways. We are learning about something about Lucha Libre in general, which has been a staple especially with CMLL for 90 years.
Right, which is impressive.
Is long steep
Very
tradition
impressive.
that we are just learning about and discovering too. So
now I really want like the non-Latin people to understand how amazing this style of wrestling is. I think if more Americans watched this, there would be a huge following. I really do, because there's just so much to it.
There is.
There's so much substance to this, as opposed to American wrestling, which is very much not about substance at all. And then I say that, and that's unfair, I know, but there are some talents in American wrestling that do put a lot of thought behind what they do, but the overall, I meant the overall, not the performers themselves, but the overall idea of American wrestling is super hollow. It's very superficial.
Yeah, well, yeah. When you watch other promotions from outside the U.S. like CMLL, yeah, it feels like
Oh, it does. Even when you watch like
feels really hard.
British wrestling,
Yeah,
there's so much more to it. And it's just like, God, why are we like this? I mean, it's like, why are we so America that we can't be like other people? I mean, seriously. And it's not just wrestling. I'm talking it from my own like the arts. We are so different because I don't know if it's like we have to be different. We can't be like them, otherwise we'll be called socialists or something. I don't know, but it's like the English or the European way of training is so much better.
Different.
It's so much better than American training.
Oh my goodness. I can't disagree with you there, Will. That is a question that I feel is going to keep coming up as we do this.
I know.
We learn more and put it into context with everything else that we cover here. But this is a fantastic first episode for CMLL. And,
Absolutely.
Fantastica Mania Mexico. If this is what we're getting every single week, I am so excited to start exploring this and be able to dive deep into it. We don't have to wait long because the next big show is in July with Fantastica Mania USA.
The next big show's on Friday. What do you guys?
That part too. I'm like, Kyle Fletcher versus Atlantis Jr. alone is like, take my money. Like,
well, not even that. Like, so I had started watching CMLL, at least the Friday shows, at least a good 2 to 3 weeks beforehand, and I can tell you that every show has the same type of pageantry and the same type of gravitas.
Yeah.
So if each show is a big show, let's just
damn,
we'll put it that way. So just
we're gonna have to talk. Yeah, we're gonna buckle in because we got to figure out which ones we're gonna talk about because that's a lot. But honestly, that might be a thing. But that is gonna be it for the debut episode of Los Lobos de la Lucha reviews here. I am looking forward to this next week. Like, this is now my Wednesdays are no longer boring, and I get to explore the world of CMLL with two of one of my favorite peeps on the planet. Or like, this crew is reunited once again. Will's conflicted. Because I say that about TNA too.
No, that's not what
I'm just happy that this crew is back together because we worked together in the past before, and I'm just happy to be back. But that is going to be it for us here at Los Lobos de la Lucha review. Tune in next week as we cover more CMLL stuff. I'm super excited. But until then, from all of us here and the rest of the hosts at BC WrestlePod, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay Bi-Conic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish strong. We'll see you next week for another CMLL episode. But until then, sayonara, adios, Billy Stark's outro, and buenas noches.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.